We're in this series called Bad Theology. Now, some of you who you're a little bit like me, you're a contrarian or a skeptic, it feels really good to say those words, so let's say them out loud. Bad theology. Oh, I can tell some of y'all are Facebook posters. Let's try it one more time. Bad theology. Bad theology. Now, I also have to be honest about this. It's tough for me to call it bad theology because sometimes it's not that it was intended as bad theology, it just ended up as bad theology. Have you ever thought about a journey that you were gonna take? And if you were just 1 to 2 degrees off, if you were going from Denver to Boulder and you're 1 to 2 degrees off, it's not that big a deal. You're gonna end up in some farmland, you'll be fine, right? But if you're going from like LA to New York and you're 2 or 3 degrees off, you could end up in the ocean. Like it could be really bad for you. And depending on your journey with Jesus, the time, the length, the depth of that relationship, sometimes incomplete theology, when it's handed off as complete theology, becomes bad theology. Now, when I was talking with a couple of friends about this, they said, you need to slow way down when you say that. Incomplete theology, when handed off as complete theology, can become bad theology in our lives. Why? Because we only get part of the truth, and a partial truth eventually is lived out as a lie. And this weekend, as we think about incomplete theology, I think some of that has been handed to us in this society or culture that we live in through mediums like social media, the news, TV, because now everyone has an opinion about theology. And because they have a platform or a status or because they've achieved something in life, it would be easy for us to go, well, that's a successful person. I need to trust what they say about theology. Wrong. Can you imagine if I got up here tonight and I started talking to you about sociology and psychology and biology and anthropology? You'd be like, bro, you don't have a degree in that. But yet every TikTok person with an iPhone, and not an Android, because apparently they love Jesus, right? But they can have an opinion about theology and we go, that must be true. No, listen, there is only one place to find truth, and it is in God's word. It has been the same for over 2,000 years. That's where we can trust our theology. So this weekend, I wanna hand you some incomplete theology. We can find some complete theology and move from bad to good or better theology. Here's the incomplete theology, and you may have heard this before, but God won't put on you more than you can handle. Anybody, all locations, you've heard that before, just raise your hand, show it to me like, yeah. I won't ask how many of you have said it, just how many have heard it, right? God won't put on you more than you can handle. And that's maybe a good phrase, but it's so incomplete that the reason it can be dangerous is if you experience a time that is more than you can handle, you begin to question yourself or God. You go, oh, I did something wrong, and so God's not with me or protecting me, and that's why I have something more than I can handle. Or you go, God must not be good, loving, kind, or merciful, or I wouldn't have something more than I can handle. I just want to take a moment and remind some of us who maybe are questioning today, and you go, did God do that to me? God is a good God. He doesn't do bad things to us. But we also have to understand that if God is all-knowing, all-present, and all-powerful, if things have gotten to my life, they have not done so in such a way that surprises God. That if they've gotten to me, there is some allowance. And you go, James, I struggle with that. Me too. Me too. Because why is that? I don't always know why. For those of you who know parts of my story, whether it was being homeless and dealing with an addiction to prescription drugs and alcohol, whether it was the trauma and abuse as a child, I can look back now, decades later, and go, okay, I see the allowance was an opportunity that I could one day tell people about a good God in the midst of the season that they were gonna go through. Sometimes allowance is an opportunity for me to testify about God, but I don't think that way when I'm in the middle of it. So if you're here today and you're going, that makes me really mad, then you're probably in the middle of the test, and this message is for you. Here we go. What's your limit of adversity of standing strong? If you have a price tag in your mind of, I'll stand strong as long as this doesn't happen, the enemy will pay that price every day of your life. Whatever it is. If you've made these like promises, you're like, God, I'll serve you as long as. The enemy will hear that and go, oh, let me try that. Why? Because the enemy knows that you were designed by God. Jeremiah 1:5 says this, before you were even formed in your mother's womb, God knew you. That word know can be translated as chose you. The enemy knows that you were chosen on purpose, for a purpose and mission, not just for yourself, but for those around you. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the reason it's such a big deal is because if they don't bow, somebody else around them goes, if they don't, I don't got to either. If they don't give up, I won't either. Sometimes you just need one courageous person in your corner that has a I'm not gonna give up mentality to say, I'll keep going. I love what one theologian said, Henry Nouwen, he said this: suffering invites us to place our hurts in larger hands. Suffering invites me to go, wait, God, I can't handle this, but I know that you can. Did you know God didn't ask you to carry all the burdens? All throughout scriptures, cast your cares on him, for he cares for you. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers them out of them all. Why does he give us these passages and verses? Because a testing is not to trick you. It's to train you.